evening, everybody. I'm going to call the August council meeting to order. Councilman, if you could take your seats. And clerk, please take the roll. Here. Present. Here. Here. Present. Here. Present. Present. If everyone could please rise and join me in saluting the flag and pledging allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Before we get started tonight, I believe Councilman McCauley wanted to recognize someone in the audience.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to acknowledge my nephew, Matt McCauley, and his girlfriend, Charlene Mayfield. They're on vacation from Tacoma, Washington, so welcome.
Thank you for coming to City Council to see kind of how we do business here in Cranston. We appreciate your presence. Under public acknowledgments and commendations, we have a few. So I have two citations for some summer interns that we were proud to have in the city of Cranston, and I will let Director Strom say a couple words about one, and then Director Igo say a couple words about another one. So I'll put you on the spot here, Director Igo.
Thank you, Council President. It's a pleasure for me to acknowledge tonight an intern that came to me from the University of Rhode Island. His name is Alawashan Akam-Soto, and with that type of name, we agreed that I would call him Sean. And Sean worked with me on a project that we got accomplished, and he was an integral part of getting it done. I have taken him to some of the council meetings and some of the committee meetings. He's enjoyed his stay, and he's going to be going into his senior year at the University of Rhode Island. And he is majoring in math and also a minor in finance. So I'd like to bring Sean up and give him this proclamation. Come on up, Sean, please. On behalf of the Finance Department, we wish you well this year in your senior year. Okay. You want to? Both of these interns were from the University of Rhode Island, and I'm pleased to say that we wish you well, but on a second note, Mike and I are Bryan College graduates of Bryan University, so it's a little difficult for us to congratulate you all right, okay?
Go Rams.
Well, it was my pleasure to work with both of these gentlemen, and they were both very professional, outstanding young men, in my opinion. They were timely. They helped me immensely. Michael Dow came in every single Monday. Whenever I needed him, stay as long as as long as I needed him. He was integral in helping me get the budget posted back in July. We got that done. I went through reconciliations with them. Mike was very helpful and picked up quite easily the process that we do here. He was a real asset to me over the summer. Michael, thank you very much. I have this proclamation from the city for you.
It's always nice to see quality interns come from our state institutions. We're so happy to have both of you. On behalf of the entire Cranston City Council, thank you so much for your hard work and determination over the last several months. Though your time with us was short, it was greatly appreciated, and I wish you both the best. And if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you, gentlemen. We have a presentation about the Heart Safe Community Program from Captain John Potvin, the East Providence Fire Department Chair of the Heart Safety Commission, and Michael Barron, the Health Department Heart Safe Coordinator. And I believe Dr. Shep. After.
Good evening, members of the City Council. Thank you for having us here tonight. As just stated, my name is John Potvin. I'm the Director of Emergency Medical Services for the City of East Providence Fire Department, and I also chair of the state's Mass Work Group at Rhode Island Department of Health. I also have Michelle Barron McGee with me, who works in the Center of Chronic Care and Disease Management at the Rhode Island Department of Health. I'd like to congratulate our city on becoming Rhode Island's 16th Heart Safe community. Since its establishment in 2007.
Captain, can you hit the button that says push? How's that better? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Since its establishment in 2007, the Center for Chronic Care and Disease Management at the Department of Health has worked collaboratively with the American Heart Association Rhode Island affiliate to develop the Rhode Island Heart Safe Community Program. The Heart Safe Community Program is designed to improve the chances of survival for people suffering sudden cardiac events such as heart attack and cardiac arrest. It promotes and recognizes the efforts of local municipalities, such as the City of Cranston, to provide improved cardiac response and care to its residents. Its goals, including increasing the number of community members trained in CPR, also increasing the number of AEDs with an emphasis on those that are placed for public use, and optimizing our pre-hospital system of care. In addition to thanking Chief McKenna and Chief Casey and Captain Mancini, I'd also like to recognize the collaboration between the Cranston Fire Department, Cranston Police Department, Cranston School Department, and other agencies that work together to make this designation possible. Dr. Alexander Scott, the Director of the Rhode Island Department of Health, and I both endorsed the Rhode Island Heart Safe Community Program based on the positive impact of a community's efforts to reduce heart disease and respond to cardiovascular events. Rhode Island communities such as the City of Cranston that meet the program standards ought to be congratulated on their hard work to improve conditions in their community. These efforts help to reduce the risk of poor outcomes from heart attack and cardiac arrest through a comprehensive approach. I'm honored to present the City of Cranston with their Rhode Island Heart Safe Community traffic signs. At this time, I'd like to call Captain Mancini, Chief Casey, and Chief McKenna to get their sign. Once again, congratulations to the City of Cranston for this life-saving achievement.
Guys, why don't you come on in and... It's all right. I have a little bit of so not that much, but enough to see. Director Shep.
Yes, on behalf of Mayor Fung, who just called at the last minute, he unfortunately couldn't be here, but he really did want to be here to recognize the hard work of our fire department on this. This is a huge thing for us, a continued commitment on behalf of this department for the safety of the public within our schools, within our city buildings, and expanding that out. That continued dedication to the public never goes unnoticed. So on behalf of the mayor, I really would like to thank the leadership within our fire department and right down to our frontline firefighters and EMS guys. You do tremendous work, and this is just, once again, something else that shows your commitment and dedication to the people of Cranston, so thank you.
Also, on behalf of myself and the Cranston City Council, I want to take a minute to thank you for all the work that went into this. Becoming a heart-safe community is a big step forward, and we're always making step forwards and strides in Cranston for the health, welfare, and safety of our students and citizens. And I can't thank everything you guys do is always above board. Between the police, the fire, we have great civil service in the city. So thank you so much. It's a fantastic thing that we can now put this in our schools. So thank you. Now we'll open the floor to public hearing. So this is the portion of the meeting for anyone to speak about a docketed law or resolution. Good evening. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, President Farina and City Council members. We'd like to thank Councilman Michael Rufficio for your continued support and for sponsoring a resolution for the traffic study on Sacramento Crossroads. We also extend a sincere thank you to President Farina and Councilman McCauley, Lonnie, Kalkauskas, and Hopkins for co-sponsoring the resolution. And thank you, Robin Montesino, for recognizing the traffic issues in Sacramento and taking action. All of your support is very much appreciated by the residents of Garden City. We appreciate past action on the part that can be addressed immediately, specifically synchronizing the traffic lights, and the long-term focus of a robust traffic study, as well as closely monitoring the traffic study for the parking lot group at South Knoxville and Pontiac. We'd like to bring forward a couple of issues that may possibly be able to be addressed in the short term.
Question?
Yes.
Just hit the button that says push.
How's that?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. There's much confusion about right-of-way at two particular intersections on Sacramento. They are at the intersection of Midway and the intersection of Power Road. Both intersections involve traffic turning onto Sacramento Crossroad with oncoming traffic exiting shopping center parking lots. Specifically, Midway and the traffic exiting the back of Chapel View, which is primarily Panera drive-through traffic, and Power Road and the traffic exiting the Whole Foods shopping center area. There's no signage or street markings identifying right-of-way, making traffic flow confusing and dangerous. We're asking that in conjunction with the shopping center property owners, the city evaluate signage and/or roadway markings at both intersections so that drivers clearly understand who has right-of-way and who has to yield to make both of these intersections safer for everyone. The other area is at the intersection of Sacramento and Pontiac. We realize this is being addressed in conjunction with the state DOT and the Capianaro Group. However, there may be an opportunity for some immediate relief. Evaluating and adjusting the timing of the lights at that intersection, Sacramento and Pontiac, and the light Pontiac at Route 37 may help with a more efficient flow of traffic in that area. We're requesting reviews of both of these areas for potential immediate changes to make traffic flow more efficient and safer for everyone. Thank you for your time, and again, thank you for your continued support in addressing the traffic concerns on Sacramento Crossroad.
Thank you, Gretchen. Have a good night.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council, Madam Clerk. My name is Roger Ross. I'm an attorney in Pawtucket. I represent Four Seasons Realty LLC, and what's in front of the council tonight is a pending resolution for the abandonment of an unnamed street that runs easterly from Monument Street, and it abuts 40 Monument Street. Okay. I appeared recently in front of the Public Works Committee and made a presentation. At that time, there was a vote taken, and that's how we got here this evening. I'll be perfectly happy to go through the presentation again if you deem it necessary. And since this is a public hearing, I'll be glad to do that. My clients, the principals of whom are both here this evening, should you have any questions, acquired this property early this year in January of 2017. When they purchased the property, they believed that the abutting street, which is improved with a garage at the rear of the street, ran with the property. They entered into a purchase and sales agreement after they invested some additional $60,000 to rehab the house, and their proposed purchaser, their lender had the property appraised, and at the appraisal, that's when it was determined that the garage actually sat on the paper street. I cannot determine exactly when all of this occurred, but there was a very small minor subdivision that was recorded in 1963, which was done by the name of someone named Michael Doremo, and it's for the two lots. Well, it's for one lot that abuts on the northerly side of 40 Monument Street, and the other lot that is northerly of that. It does not affect the 40 Monument Street property itself, but it does show the paper street. So it existed at least 53 years ago, and I can't determine when the construction occurred. I went to the building inspector's office, checked the files for 40 Monument Street and the abutters on the side where the garage exists, and there's no record of a building permit. I do know that the house itself was built in the early 1920s, so the house is 100 years old, more or less, and visually the garage seems to have built contemporaneously with the construction of the house. It appears, and there's some supposition here, that the paper street was reserved possibly to be a through street running across Monument Street at some point in time, but all of that land has now been developed, and there's another subdivision on the westerly side of Monument Street. So basically, it's a paper street to nowhere. It runs into the garage, and the terminus is on Monument Street. So also, we submitted a Class 1 survey as is required, and that reflects that the garage actually encroaches partially on the 40 Monument Street property, which is some evidence that it was intended to be used for that house. And in fact, as best as we know, the owners of 40 Monument have always used that garage. We did have a full-blown survey of the property done, including the paper street with the garage. That was submitted. I was informed at the last meeting that was reviewed by the tax assessor. It was found to be in order. It reasonably reflects fair market value, and apparently that's been signed off on by the assessor. So what we're here for in front of the council this evening is on the resolution based on the recommendation of the Public Works Department for the abandonment of the street. And having said that, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If I left anything unsaid, I'll be glad to fill in.
Thank you. We'll continue with public comment, but since you'll be here when the resolution comes up, you're available for questions.
That'll be fine, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney. Anyone else like to speak on docketed items? Anyone else? There being none, that portion of the meeting is now closed. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to do this later, but it's probably easier to do it now. Judge Smith, if you'd like to go over the judge's appointment now, you can, or you can wait until later in the evening. It's entirely up to you.
I'll wait, Mr. President. No problem.
Okay. There are no resolutions tonight, so we'll move on to report of committees. Safety Services and Licensing Committee, Council Majority Leader Papalauskas.
Thank you, Mr. President. First on the agenda for the Safety Services and Licensing Committee is a Class B Victor Crab Aboard LLC, 957 Reservoir Avenue. That was forwarded from the committee to the council.
Motion to approve. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Under discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels?
Yes.
Councilman Paul?
Yes.
Councilman Nettle?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Velazquez?
Yes.
Councilman
Yes. Yes.
Okay, moving on, we have the Carolina Barbecue Company. That is at 1255 Reservoir Avenue, and that was also forwarded to the full council from committee.
Motion to approve. Second. I have a motion to approve in a second. Under discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. That brings close the business of the Safety Service Committee. To those two new businesses, welcome to Cranston, best of luck. I can't wait to have the barbecue at Carolina Barbecue Company and the food at the new Chinese restaurant, so thank you. Finance Committee, Council Vice President Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. We have 7-1703, ordinance and amendment of Title 3.16, Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Property Tax Classification, Motor Vehicle Tax Incentive Program. It was heard in Finance, sponsored by Council President, myself, and Councilman Lanny, co-sponsored by Councilmen McCauley, Hopkins, Colford, Arquette, and Peplowskis, and it was recommended, it was unanimously approved.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Entertain a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Second. I have a motion to approve in a few seconds. Under discussion, Council Vice President.
Thank you, Council President. If you recall, this was the tax incentive for the rental car companies so that they could get an incentive to register their vehicles in Cranston at a reduced rate. However, they have the right to register their vehicles in any city that they have an operation in. So this would be, and it may be a temporary thing if the car taxes are phased out, but at least for the next few years, we may have some additional revenue that we would not have had. So I would recommend passage.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Councilman Stichels, I saw you had your hand up.
I noticed that on the new business, there's a request, there's a proposal to grant a tax incentive for Reservoir Avenue rentals. Could someone explain how that relates to this proposal, and if there are other companies in discussions with the city about this?
To the Administration, Director Muskin, do you have a response?
I don't believe that relates at all to the rental car incentive. That's just a standard business tax incentive that's moving forward, but that has no connection to this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, Council President Farina. I'm in favor of this bill. However, I have just a small concern about it because I think this is going to increase the revenue side of the budget for a short term, maybe 2-3 years. And as we all are well aware that our finance department, Mr. Strong and others, they do projections. We project the revenue each year. So in 3 years or so, the veterans may not be here and they may not realize that the 4th or 5th year is going to be a goose egg on that line item. So it may cause, I think, in the long run, projections to be off if we're not careful. Therefore, I suggest that the revenue that is created by this bill, this very good bill, it's going to be passed, should be kept in a restricted receipt account. That's my opinion, but I'll leave it up to the body. Thank you.
To the Director of Finance, the funds that come in for this tax incentive, would they go directly into a general fund, or would they go into a separate account to belay the concerns of Councilman Arquette? What's the plan?
Council President, the plan would be that it would go into the general fund as a revenue item. I can isolate it separately as a standalone revenue line.
So you could create a separate account
but
in the
it
general
is
fund?
going to be part of the total general fund revenue.
Councilman Arquette, would that...
It's fine. Separate account.
Separate account.
And then this is here with the revenue.
I think it's a good call out, Councilman Arquette. It'll give us the ability to see it as it goes up or down separately in the general fund.
And can I just say one thing? That keep in mind right now, there is nothing at this point. This is going forward.
Any further discussion? Councilman Stichels. Actually, I recognize you once, so does anyone else have any other comments before I recognize Councilman Stichels for a second time? Councilman Stichels.
I won't be supporting this. I don't think this is what I think it is it's going to be a race to the bottom with communities competitively lowering their tax on rental fleets, and I don't think we should start the race. that's going to hurt other communities, and ultimately, also don't see why a homeowner or a renter should pay more for their car tax than a rental car company that is in the business of renting vehicles. So I won't be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilman Stichels. Any further comments? Said my 2 cents on this bill. Though it may be a race to the bottom, it is a good attempt to grab additional revenue for the city of Cranston. I believe only 2 other communities currently have this program. There potentially could be people who would want to rent cars who have businesses in the city, and any way I can drive more revenue for the citizens and the taxpayers, I think as a council we have to look into this. It's one of those things that could create more jobs, people wanting to put their businesses in here. As the car tax gets phased out over the next 5 years, this would not be an issue, so no matter what happens over the next 5 years, car taxes won't be an issue, but if we can draw some businesses to come here in the meantime, I'm all for that. With no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have the resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements. This passed unanimously at committee.
Entertain a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilman Pavlakis.
Just a quick point of information or request. It's getting very hard to read the abatements that come in front of us or anything from the tax assessor's office. The print is very small, so I don't know if we can do something for, the next meeting coming up. It's been a struggle. The doctor says I don't need glasses, Evan.
To the Director of Finance, any way we can make that font a little bigger?
I'm going to have a discussion with Sal Sakosha, our tax assessor. We'll see what we can do on that, okay?
Thank you.
I think right now it just comes, that's the way it comes out of the system. They don't manipulate it at all, so maybe they can increase the font before they print it.
Thank you.
Thank you. No additional discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels?
Yes.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Kettle?
Yes.
Councilman Holford?
Yes.
Councilman Pavlakis?
Yes.
Councilman Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution authorizing motor vehicle tax abatements. That passed unanimously as well.
I have a motion. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a second. Under discussion, seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels?
Yes.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Kettle?
Yes.
Councilman Holford?
Yes.
Councilman Pavlakis?
Yes.
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 Okay. And last, we have a resolution authorizing tangible tax abatements, and all of these all have the same issue as far as reading them, so Director of Finance can work on that.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Under discussion, seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels? Yes. Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Kettle?
Yes.
Councilman Holford?
Yes.
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 Yes. That will conclude the business of the Finance Committee. On to the Public Works Committee. Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item is a resolution urging the administration to conduct a study of the traffic issues at the Sauconasset corridor. This is recommended for approval by the committee and forwarded to the full council.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved. Second.
And a second? Second. Under discussion?
Just one quick question.
Councilman Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. Just one thing to add, and Robin, you are here, good. One thing that Gretchen mentioned was some of the signage around Sauconasset, and I noticed the other day on Pontiac turning onto Sauconasset, heading south from like Aldi, and you hit the Wendy's intersection, it says no right on red, and there is certainly at 7, 8 o'clock at night, there's no reason to be stopped there while it's red. And I was just wondering if we could ask the state to make a change there or put right on red after stop. No right on red unless you have to
Just
stop.
if you could send me a reminder on
Okay.
that, and I will. Thank you.
Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the administration, again, one of the concerns I've had, and I mentioned it at the last meeting, was the exiting out of the CVS onto Pontiac Avenue. And those bushes are still blocking any type of vision coming out of CVS onto Pontiac, so...
Mr. Mason sent a letter last week.
I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us know.
Any additional discussion? Councilman Favicchio.
Just one other quick comment. I just want to thank the residents for coming and being so loyal. They've been here now 3 or 4 times, and they're very loyal and very supportive. And I know they have a direct line with Director Muxian, so anything, we can do, we're going to try to push this forward as quickly as possible.
Additional comments? I want to echo the comments from Council Vice President Favicchio. The group has been organized, open. They've been willing to meet with us, meet with people, and have an open discussion about how to solve problems as opposed to just telling us what they want and expecting us to do it. So that is greatly appreciated. If more people handle things like this that way, I'm sure they get done a lot easier and a lot smoother. So thank you for being so open and honest and providing feedback when we don't do the right thing. So thank you. With that, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
The second resolution is authorizing the abandonment of a portion of Monument Street, recommended for approval by the committee and forwarded to the full council.
Motion to approve? Motion to approve. Second. I have a second. Any discussion? Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, President Farina. I just want to raise the same point I raised in the ordinance committee. Was it public works? Public works. And when a town or a municipality abandons a road, the abutters split the road. So half goes to one abutter, half goes to the other. And this isn't the case in this instance. It seems to me that we're abandoning the road and only one homeowner is getting the road. So I'm very leery about supporting this because I don't know if there's been a backroom deal or a done deal here. So I'm going to vote no on this because it defies the logic of the law. Thank you.
Councilman Arquette, based on that concern from the committee meeting, our attorney did do some research for you on that.
Councilman, the common law has changed on that, and if you look in the code book, it's section 12.04.070. It sets forth the requirements for a petition of the abandonment of a highway, which it references Rhode Island General Law 2464, and what it references that a petitioner can approach a municipality for an abandoned road, and the city code says they should pay a filing fee and pay the city the market value of that property that they are going to take. So instead of just having the half and half, which I agree with you is the old law, now what they do is they pay the market value of the abandoned, one individual, can pay the market value to the city of that abandoned property.
Okay, next question. Does the abutting neighbor have an approval or denial of that? Can they object?
They can object, but apparently we have no objection on that particular abandonment.
My question to this attorney.
Yes.
Thank you. Attorney Kirschbaum. So, President Freeman, my next question would be directed through the chair to the attorney. Was there any objection from the neighbor?
There was no directed objection to my office or to my clients.
Were they notified?
They were notified by the city under the state law and the ordinances.
And they had no response to
your office? They had no response, and they did not appear.
Okay, that clarifies my concerns. Thank you.
And they did not appear at the committee meeting.
Thank you.
Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through the attorney, just as a point of interest, the last meeting that we talked on this,
the abutting neighbor was sitting here, and he did not raise any issues or concerns other than the fencing.
Yeah, that was...
And I just wanted to make sure that that was straightened out, but again, we have no interest in the other piece of the property.
Yeah, if I could, yes, that's Mr. Latai, who's the abutter. I don't see him here this evening, I don't believe, but I did speak with Mr. Latai after, and as you indicated, when the Class 1 survey was done, that reflected that my client's fence is encroaching on Mr. Latai's property. We were unaware of that, but I assured him that assuming that everything went through and my clients took a deed to that strip, that we would, in very short order, remove the fence from his property and, get rid of the encroachment, because we were unaware of that. But I gave him my assurance, I gave him my business card, I asked him if he had any questions or concerns to be in touch with me directly, and I have not heard from him.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Councilman Hopkins. Moving to the Ordinance Committee, Council Majority Leader Paplaskas.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. First on the ordinance agenda is 7-1701, ordinance and amendment of Title 10, Chapter 32.500 of the Code of City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Prospect Street, 1-hour parking, sponsored by Councilman Stichels.
Do I have a motion to approve? Second. A motion to approve is second. Under discussion, Council Vice President Vivekio.
Thank you, Council President. Didn't we ask for a study through the chair to the administration? There were a couple of issues on this.
That's the next one.
That's the next, okay.
The next one is overnight parking. This is 1-hour parking.
Okay, that's fine. Then I withdraw my question.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, moving on, we have 7-1702, ordinance amendment of Title 10, Chapter 28, Code of City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, overnight parking permits, referred to the Ordinance Committee, sponsored by Councilman Stichels.
Motion approved.
Second. I have a motion to approve in a second. Under discussion, Council Vice President Vivekio.
Thank you, Council President. Now I can ask my question. Through the chair to Director Muncy. I know we had some questions on this that we needed answered from the committee meeting.
So I tried to ascertain how homes there were that had no driveway. And we just logistically do not have a capability of knowing that. Our GIS doesn't indicate that. It's not something the tax assessor can pull up. Driveway is not like an assessed entity in a separate category. So we did try to find that. What we did do per recommendation was recommended some names forward for the overnight parking committee. And we recommended the fire chief, Sergeant Needham, who's the traffic sergeant in the police department, as well as John Corso, our highway manager, be on that committee. But I did try to get the numbers for you on the no driveway or the limited parking,
Right.
and there's absolutely no way to ascertain that.
And so the way it's written now, it wouldn't be specific to that gentleman that has the problem, and that was what we were trying to...
No, and that was the concern. So as we look at it now, it's still a little bit vague and may open it up to a much larger number of streets. And the concern we have with that is to do that without having the committee take a look at it and having the input from fire, police, and highway, I think at this point would be premature. In the meantime, our police department will continue to work with that gentleman, and frankly, anybody who comes forward right now who has no driveway, we certainly would continue to look at and work for. I believe that there are, just anecdotally in the people I've spoken to, there are probably very few people who have no driveway. So I think it would be a limited number, and it would be manageable in the short term for our police to handle that on a one-on-one if someone else came forward as well that had no driveway. So we can handle that in the short term while we try to ascertain what might work, because as it's written now, it would open it up to a much larger number of streets than I would be comfortable having us to commit to without our safety people looking at it.
Okay. Councilman Paplaskas, then Councilman Stichels.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'm hesitant to vote for this until we have a meeting of the overnight parking committee. I think maybe we should send this ordinance as framework to the committee or table this and use this as framework during the committee. I'd just like to hear from Highway, from the police department and the fire department before we move forward on it.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Stichels.
Yes, in light of the administration's concerns and the inability to find a number of people who don't have driveways, I'd like to propose an amendment, and this would be on line 29 of the ordinance, and it would simply say no more than 5 permits per year may be granted under this program on a first-come, first-served basis.
To the administration, would that allay your concerns? It sounds like it might not, but I would defer to you.
I'm not sure on the legality of that. I would defer to the solicitors as to whether or not we can do something like that on a first-come, first-serve. Again, if we're talking about only 4 or 5, I know that our police department can manage that on a one-on-one. The other thing is, on any street that we would grant it, I still would feel more comfortable if our first responders had taken a look at it. Again, it might seem very benign, but if it's at the end, for example, of a dead-end road, and the only way that a fire truck could turn around is to have nobody there in the middle of the night. I mean, that may be remote, Councilman, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but I just don't want to take any steps that we don't need to prematurely. We certainly can accommodate this gentleman now, and we have no reason that we would not accommodate him. And if there were 2 or 3 others that came forward, we could. I'm just very leery of granting something when I know that in the past first responders have anecdotally told me that they have concerns about overnight parking. So again, I don't know what the patterns are on every particular street with snow plowing, or the concerns that might come up with that, with parking bans, where those people would park their cars during bans. My thing is that if we can just table this till we get a group together to talk about it, and again, in the meantime, certainly assist any constituents, because I do understand, Councilman, the concern for a constituent that's sort of trapped in this situation.
Thank you, Director. Any further comments? There has not been a second.
I'll second the amendment.
I have an amendment and a second. Under discussion, Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, President Farina. I'm supportive of the bill, however, I'm not supportive of the amendment. I think it's too arbitrary of a number. There are 6 wards in our city, and he only elected to get 5 permits. That doesn't even give 1 permit per ward. So based upon the amendment, I can't support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McCauley.
Thank you, Council President. I'm in agreement with Director Muskin as far as taking care of Mr. Flynn here, because he's been really the only person that's come up. I know that there's others involved, but you've been the one that's been coming here on a regular basis, sir, so everyone knows your name. So, and I appreciate you filling us in. But I think we really do need a study to be done to properly tackle this issue. I mean, the day of the family station wagon's gone. There's 5 cars parked around a residential street, a residential house, and it has to be addressed at some point. So I think we can take care of this man, like Director Muskin suggested, and then take a deeper look into the situation at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McCauley. Councilman Favecchio.
Yes, Council President, thank you. One other quick question, reminder. We also had this ordinance had set some fees for parking, and I know fees are always something that we need to really look at before we impose them for various reasons. We've had litigation over fees, over whether they're relevant, whether they meet the purpose that they were designed for. And we have some fees in here as well. So I think that's going to require some study. I think everyone's in agreement that Mr. Flynn needs to be taken care of, and certainly no one has questioned that. The police are well aware of his situation and have not bothered him at all, and will continue to do that so that we can sort this out. But I really do think that there are a number of issues that are not addressed until we get this study done.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Any additional comments?
Excuse me, sir, may I address?
No, you may not. When the council is done deliberating it, if anyone has a question directly for you, then they can ask it. Councilman Stichels.
Yes, I just have a question for Mr. Flynn, if you have any comments on this bill.
Well, I'm in the dark right now because I'm not sure where I stand. I mean, everybody's talking about studying traffic flow, the police, the fire. I understand all that. But in my situation, as everybody knows, there's no place for me to park my car. So this is one of the things I thought about. Why not go on a case-by-case situation? In other words, if some patron in the city of Cranston gets a ticket because of the fact that they've got 2 maybe places to park the cars and they have 3, let the police do their jobs, then they can protest to the council or to the police that they do not have a place to park, case by case. My situation, again, since January, I addressed the committee, and I appreciate it. There's no resolution yet.
Director Muskin, if you'd like to.
So that's exactly what my point is about homes that have no driveway. I do think they should be looked at case by case, because there are situations in this city that are unique. And that's exactly why right now the police are accommodating you and will continue to accommodate you until we resolve this. So where you stand is you can continue to park the way you're parking, because at this point the police are not going to tag you, and they all know that. Every 30 days they renew that for you. So what will happen is, at a committee, they may talk about it case by case. Perhaps the role of this committee would be to stay intact every time there's a petition to come forward. It may be that the committee collectively agrees that there should be an ordinance to allow for case by case review, which very well may be a situation in wards like 1 and 2 and 3 particularly, where we have a lot of people who may want it, but it may work on some streets and not on others. So I think that what we have to look at is we don't know what this committee will decide. The committee may decide exactly what you're saying, and pretty much what I think may be very useful is let a committee stay intact where people petition to have it. But to have the ordinance govern anything more than that right now would be premature. But in the short term, you're fine. But you're not going to get ticketed in the short term.
Well, thank you. But I mean, just to add to it, I have not been contacting the police about 30 days at a clip. So should I, from this point on, just contact them and say, look, because of the situation on Villa Avenue,
in a normal situation, I would tell you to do that, but in this case, I'll just take it on as my own responsibility to make sure. I'll work with our police department to ensure that they continue that until we come to some resolution here.
But I mean, as far as coming to some resolution, I mean, I don't want to be overstepping my bounds here, but I think I mentioned this last time, that up in the engineering department, they have all the layouts of all the houses, and they can pretty much, I mean, all you have to do is go upstairs in the engineering department and take a look at my property and see that there is no place to park.
Sir, I don't dispute your request on your property, and that's why I personally am saying to you in a public forum that I will ensure that you do not get a ticket because you have no driveway. I don't dispute you, but the challenge that I have is we can't go through 50,000 files of every household or 35,000 files of every household to do that, because I don't have the ability to push a button on a computer and find, okay, these 5 houses don't have driveways. But I am not disputing or questioning you at all, sir, and as such, we are happy to keep continuing to move forward with the police department to ensure you will not have an issue, and until we come to some resolution on this to figure out what to do for homes like yours with no driveway, then we'll figure from there if it has to be a police department issue or if it's something that can be done by ordinance. But I have no problem with us, with this committee discussing whether or not these should be considered case by case. Because in wards like 2, where I grew up, you have some homes with 1-car driveways, some homes with 3-car driveways, some homes that got converted to duplexes and 3 families. When we do zoning for in-law apartments, do we consider how many cars are going to be in those driveways? There's a whole host of questions, in particular wards 1, 2, and 3, that are going to come into play, and certain streets it may work for and certain streets it may not, certain homes it may work for and it may not, because you're absolutely right, it is a case-by-case situation. So as this committee moves forward, this traffic committee, I'm hopeful one of the things they will talk about is whether or not this should be something that people petition for, and a committee reviews each petition. Now, it might be a little overwhelming initially, because we may have, streets come in, but in that case, they'd be petitioning a street.
So, should I continue to come here to see what the progress is, or how should I handle it my end?
Well, the overnight committee will be a public meeting. If you wanted to come listen at that meeting, you certainly are welcome to. I always encourage the public to listen in if they have concerns. You can also keep in touch with your councilman. I know he's very directly involved and will continue to be, I have no doubt. Councilman Stikos is always responsive to his constituents. So I think that, if you choose to come and want to come listen to the overnight committee and hear the discussion, it might be very informative for you, actually.
Well, like I say, I've been here since January, and we always seem to, as they say, kick the can down the road. And all I want is an okay. I appreciate what you're doing. Maybe the thing to do for me, instead of coming here, taking up time, is just talk to my councilman.
And that absolutely, and Councilman Stikos has an open door into the mayor's office with us all the time, so that's certainly your option. But but what I am saying is that traffic committee will be a public forum, so that you certainly could listen to that discussion, so that there would be full transparency on that.
But again, not to belabor the point, but, when do you think that you're going to address the issue?
The group is going to meet September 18th. Will be the first meeting.
So another month from now.
Yep, but again, I will call Sergeant Needham and make sure you're okay.
Excuse me, please?
I will call Sergeant Needham and make sure you're okay.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you.
Any additional questions? I'll make a couple comments. I think we need a full study of this law before we pass any kind of overnight parking ordinance that allows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 permits. We need to get the opinions of police, fire, highway, some councilmen, hence why we created the overnight parking commission to take a good look at this. Unfortunately, Mr. Flynn left. I wanted to ask him how many tickets he had gotten in the last 6 months while we were reviewing this. I know the answer is 0 because I already called the police department and asked. But we're trying to work with Mr. Flynn to ensure that he doesn't get ticketed while we try to figure this out. This is a bigger issue than just one street or one ward. We have to figure out a plan for the city. With that, clerk, please take the roll on the amendment.
Council Lee?
Yes.
Council Hopkins?
No.
Council Stichels?
Yes.
Council Foley?
No.
Council Mandela?
No.
Council Holbrook?
No.
Council Paplaskas?
No.
Council Lakers?
No.
No. Any further discussion on the ordinance? Councilman Paplaskas.
I'd like to make a motion to either, I don't know what the proper way to do it is because the committee's not formed, to either send this to the committee or to table it for now, to use this as framework at the overnight parking committee.
I think the operative thing would be to table it and use it as framework for the overnight parking committee, which has not been forwarded, and my parliamentarian sitting next to you is saying yes.
I'll make a motion to table.
Motion to table and use this as framework for the overnight parking commission. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Under discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Council Lee? Delaney?
No.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stieglus?
No.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Ardell?
No.
Councilman Holford?
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas?
Yes.
Council President Vecchio?
Yes.
Council President Lee?
Yes.
Moving on, we have 7-1704, ordinance and amendment of Title 8.28 of the Code of City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Property Maintenance Standards, Residential Dumpster Permit Requirement, sponsored by Councilman McCauley.
Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Under discussion, Councilman McCauley, in the committee meeting, I believe you wanted to make some amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. I spoke with the Director Pikel in inspections, and I'm glad I did. I got some worthwhile information and suggestions from him. So what I'd like my ordinance to read is the restrictions on dumpsters and residential driveways, excluding permitted projects until the conclusion. For all others, there would be a 30-day time limit with a one-time renewal from inspections office, after which a $50 fine per week would be imposed. And it sounds like I'm targeting people doing renovations, and that's the farthest thing from my mind. What's happening is this is pretty much like the house with no driveway. There's very few times that this will come up, but when it does, it's very upsetting to the neighborhoods when you have a dumpster, specifically one in my neighborhood, that's been there for over a year and it's untouchable. So that's who we're targeting here. We're certainly not targeting the homeowner that's doing a rental project or straightening out and getting rid of clutter. So it would affect very few, but I asked the council to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McCauley. Could you let us know what line for the clerk, you want to insert that language on? So are you striking anything?
There's really... I'm sorry, Councilman.
That's all right, just so she knows for posterity.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Before could I just have the stenographer read back the amendment that was stated? I have the 30 days. Excluding permitted projects.
Why does that go in? Councilman McCauley, do you have it written down?
I do, sir.
Could you...
Who has it? Mine has it.
No, never mind.
Okay. So, what my ordinance to read is to revise on corners and residential driveways, excluding permitted
Projects.
Permitted projects until conclusion. For all others, there will be a 30-day time limit with a one-time renewal from the office. After which a $50 fine per week would be imposed.
I don't have the per week. Was that correct?
That's correct, Madam Clerk.
Main thing is, it sounds like I'm targeting people doing renovations.
Yeah, that we know. Okay, so... Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to support this amendment as well as the ordinance. Thank Councilman McCauley for spotting this, but it's not just in his neighborhood or his ward, it's a citywide problem that we're addressing with this, and I think it's a good ordinance, and I'm going to be supporting it.
Thank you, Councilman Hopkins. Council Vice President Vecchio.
Yeah, Council President, thank you. Just one quick question. I'm not completely sure as to how this entire ordinance will be worded. I'm not sure where the amendment is being
put into this ordinance.
It sounds like Councilman McCauley is working on that with the clerk right now.
Yeah, I just,
Okay, it seems like she has a good solid understanding of where it needs to go. That was my concern too, Council Vice President, that's why I asked if everybody knew what we were doing.
in excess.
So the amendment, if I understood Councilman McCauley correctly, 128 is where the paragraph starts. On 129, it says a residential area in excess of 2 weeks. That will be changed to 30 days without the prior permission of the City of Cranston Inspections Department. And then we would add, excluding permitted projects until conclusion, all others would require a permit. It would end there, and I'm not actually adding would require a permit. If said homeowner demonstrates a clear need for an extension in excess of where it says 2 weeks on line 31, it would be 30 days. And then we would strike out a reasonable date for its removal shall be established, and it would add, shall obtain a one-time renewal. And then the second paragraph on the failure to comply, at the end of line 35, we would add the fine, which would be per week.
Correct.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Councilman McCauley. Councilman Stichels.
The one-time renewal, would that also be for 30 days?
Yes, so, I'm sorry, Councilman, so it could go as long as 60 days for a non-permitted if they had the original 30 days and then they got the 30-day renewal. So it could go to 60 days.
And how would it work with the permitted?
Until its conclusion.
The project?
The project's conclusion, correct.
Procedurally, before we continue, I know Councilman McCauley made the motion. I don't think we had a second. So if someone could second the amendment. Thank you. So we can stick with the rules. So anybody else would like to continue on discussion? Councilman Stichels, you may continue.
Yeah, so there's no time limit now in a permit. What, building permit?
That's correct.
So if I say I'm going to redo my kitchen, then as long as I'm working on that project or the contractor's working on the project, I can have the dumpster there.
As long as it's an active permit, correct.
And can someone tell me how long permits last, or do they expire at some point?
That would be you, Director Muskin.
I think it depends on the project, but I don't think we have an actual expiration on a permit. But realistically, if it was a permitted project and people took the effort out to get the permit, I would imagine it's a legitimate project. So, I mean, I can confirm with Stan what the length of a permit is, but I don't usually think there's a conclusion to a permit that I know of. I don't think we give an amount of time.
I think this is a good proposal, and I'm going to vote for it. I just would think we need to watch that. I had a guy who had scaffolding up for years, and the neighbor was going crazy, and inspections would go over and say, "Oh, when are you going to finish the project?" And the guy would say, "Oh, I'm working on it. I'm going to finish it," and he never did. So anyway, I think this is worth a try, but that may be a loophole.
If I may, Mr. President?
You may.
There's certainly, there's some loopholes that people may find, but I think overall, it's something that will address many of the problems that exist today. And like the director said, normally when you have a permitted project, you're hoping to get the inspectors done for a CO or whatever it may be, so I'm just hoping that this will nip it a little in the bud anyways. Thank you.
If I might, I think part of this that's important is that right now there's nothing. And so I could bring a dumpster in because I decide to clean my house, a non-permitted project, and leave that dumpster there for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and basically use it as a trash receptacle, particularly now given that we don't pick up bulky waste anymore as a routine. So once you went to the regulated size trash bins and you couldn't put a couch out on your front lawn, we open the door potentially for a little bit of a problem. I don't think it's a critical issue around the city as far as numbers of cases, but in those few cases, this at least gives us as a city some legs to protect the neighborhoods a bit. The question of the duration of projects becomes a little more controversial because if someone can't afford to finish a project and, the problems that can come there. But again, they're always welcome to call minimum housing to ensure that the project is still ongoing.
Councilman Laney.
I'm going to support this ordinance also. However, I think we're going to have a problem with projects. If somebody decides they're going to renovate their home and they put a dumpster out there for 4 months and say the kitchen got done, then they bring in somebody to do the bathroom. They leave it out there for another 6 months. And then we're in a situation where someone's taking advantage of a loophole in this particular ordinance. I wish we could tighten it up, but unfortunately, I don't have the answer to it, but maybe smarter people in the administration than I am can come up with an answer for this.
Director Muskin, I think you're smarter than most people in the room.
Well, I was just going to say, if there were smarter people in the administration, they may not be here right now, so, because I can't come up with a better answer for you, Councilman, except to say that we have nothing in place now for that. So it doesn't mean that it's okay to leave the loophole, but at least this is a start. And again, the challenge with what we're talking about is to regulate how fast people have to get a project done. Becomes really tough because of financial situations that people run into and whatnot. The spirit of this wasn't so much about permitted projects as I understand it from the councilman. This was really more about non-permitted projects and people putting a dumpster out, and I think simply he gave the latitude on permitted projects because the thing that came up was, well, what if somebody has a contractor at their house? So I think in the effort to protect people who want to do work on their homes and improve their homes, we put that in there, because originally the language didn't even reference permitted projects. It was simply just a dumpster. So this tried to allow for people who were doing projects, but I agree it could open a door, and I think we just have to monitor and see how many complaints we get on that. We can always amend down the road until those smarter people, wherever they are, come up with it, Councilman.
Thank you for being such a smart person.
Thank you as well, sir.
Councilman Fedecchio.
Thank you, Council President. Perhaps we could revisit the inspection ordinance or require permits to be renewed every so often, like every year or every 6 months or something, so that we review to see whether they're just languishing for years, as Councilman Stichels' neighbor with the scaffolding for 2 or 3 years. So we could revisit the inspection ordinances instead of looking at this ordinance.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think this is a good amendment. It does clean it up a little bit. When we originally talked about it, I think the concern was, like Councilman McCauley said, people who leave dumpsters on their yards with no permits for no reason, and I think cleaning it up will help us. Just so everyone knows, Councilman Fedecchio may be onto something. It looks like right now, Attorney Kershawam has told me that a building permit is good for 2 years based on our current ordinances. So we may want to take a look at some of those ordinances and allow for permit changes or reapply. So with no more discussion on the amendment, I will encourage the clerk to please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Now on the motion as amended, Councilman Marqueta.
Thank you, President Farina. I just want to commend Councilman McCauley. I think it's a great bill. It's going to help the city, the amenities, and make it look much better. I know I've got calls pertaining to dumpsters being on in yards longer than 3 months, so I think it's a great idea. I know we put a lot of hard work in this, and to echo Councilman Hopkins' words, this is a systemic problem. It's throughout all wards throughout the city, so he's helping each one of us. Thank you, Councilman.
Any further discussion before we take the roll? Thank you, Councilman McCauley. I think this is a good solve to the problem, or partial solve. There were no laws in the books. This is a good, it's good to see councilmen in their wards caring about things like dumpsters and things to help make their wards better. So thank you, sir. And I did confer with both attorneys. This would be considered not a substantive change to the ordinance, but more of a change to the business language, and does not need to be re-advertised, so we can vote for final approval tonight. With that, clerk, please take the roll.
We need a motion. Do we have a motion?
We have a motion to approve, but we do need a motion to approve the ordinance as amended. Motion to approve as amended. Second. I have motion to approve as amended. I have a second under discussion. Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Claims Committee, I believe that is all for the Ordinance Committee. Claims Committee, Councilman Colford.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I would like to report out that tonight we have a number of settled claims that are listed here in tonight's docket for your reading pleasure. I'd like to turn the floor back over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Colford. The floor is open to any matter. We're under public hearing, so any matter anyone would like to speak about, please feel free to come to the podium at this time. As usual, name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council, Paul Valera representing the firefighters. I'm here to speak to you tonight on two articles that appeared in the Journal on firefighter disabilities. I think I owe it to the administration to come before you. I certainly owe it to the city council, and I owe it to the citizens of Cranston when the only newspaper in the state actually calls for a probe into firefighter disability pensions in Cranston with absolutely no facts to back that up. If I could have this passed out to the council and the administration, please.
Yes, Rose, if you would grab that for us and take it as a piece of information. I know.
Okay, so what the Journal did, this story was probably written well before they spoke to me or anybody from the administration, and I believe the administration was spoken to because they were quoted in the article. So, the story changed a few times. In my opinion, there was a political attack on the mayor as that season starts to roll around, and what better way to attack the mayor than to bring in firefighter disability pensions, which have unfortunately become a dirty word in the state of Rhode Island. So the first question that was asked of me from the reporter was, why are there more disability pensions than service pensions in the city of Cranston? There are 9 disability pensions out of 13 pensions in the MERS. Now that's all we're talking about now is the MERS pension, firefighters that are in the MERS pension. So they wanted to know, that was the article. Why are there more disabilities? Cranston has more disability pensions than any of the other 22, I believe, MERS fire departments. They had more disability pensions than service pensions. One of my answers to that was sheer luck. You get hurt as a firefighter. It only takes a few feet. I could be standing on a 3rd floor and have that ceiling come down, and the guy next to me gets hit in the head, and I don't get hit in the head. So it's sheer luck of getting hurt in fires. And firefighters do get hurt. You probably could ask a first grader, and they would tell you it's a dangerous job. Obviously, the Journal doesn't know that. But here's the real answer to why there's only, out of the 13 disabilities, the 13 pensions, there are 9 firefighter disabilities. Because presently, as you all know, we did not go into the MERS system, the firefighters did not go into the MERS system till 1995, which means we've only been in the MERS system for 22 years, which means we are not eligible for service pensions yet. You have to have 25 years in. So Cranston firefighters are not eligible to retire under a service pension. That's the reason we've only got a few that have a service pension. Now, if you look at it, 9 disabilities in 22 years is not that bad. It is not that bad at all for a fire department that does over 15,000 runs a year. So we blew that one out of the water. We blew that angle out of the water. So the next angle they tried to get to is that the Cranston Fire Department has the 2nd highest disability pensions in the state at 9. Well, what I just passed out to you is this. There are 22 fire departments in the MERS system. That's what they're comparing Cranston to. Out of those 22, Cranston does more runs than any of those departments. As a matter of fact, you look at the document I just gave you, I did a four-year study of runs from the 22 other departments that are with Cranston. let me get my figures straight here, because I know they're here and I don't want to be journalized. There are 23 departments that participate. If you look at the numbers I gave you, Cranston does more runs per year than 20 of those 22 fire departments do in 4 years. That's why our disability pensions are higher. If the journal could count, you would know that if you're comparing a fire department that does 1,000 runs a year to a fire department that does 15,000 runs a year, it's obvious that fire department is going to have more injuries. So we blew that angle out of the water. They came up with a third angle for the story. I was asked, it appears that most of your disability pensions came in after the 2011 pension theft that we saw in Rhode Island. So the reporter was insinuating that the injuries that the firefighters had were bogus claims, and all they put in for them after 2011 because of the pension changes. They were mad, so they faked their disability, they faked their injuries and illnesses to get a disability. Again, as they usually do, not their homework. The only dates the journal had was the dates that the pensions were approved. Now, I've been before you many meetings telling you that the real problem at the state was how long it takes to get a fire out on disability. We actually have a firefighter who put his papers in 2 years ago, and he still has not seen state doctors yet. So he's been on the rolls for Cranston, getting full pay for 2 years, put his papers in. He's definitely going to get a pension. He's had 4 back surgeries. There's no question he can't come back to work. They haven't processed him for 2 years, and I figured out how much you've paid in overtime for that firefighter for 2 years, because you have to backfill every position. The city of Cranston has paid $220,000 in the last 2 years to cover this firefighter's shift. 2 years ago, he put his papers in, and he still hasn't been to state doctors yet. So that was their other angle. So firefighters are putting in bogus claims because they're mad at the state of Rhode Island for changing their pensions. But as I said, all they had was the dates when they were awarded their pensions. Most came after 2011. Most of them were put in prior to 2010. And I have those dates for you if you'd like them. We did have 4 firefighters that retired after 2011. They did indeed put their papers in. 2 of them were career rescue men who had between them 6 back surgeries. They both had experimental back surgeries. After those didn't work, one tried to come back, blew his back out again. The other one could never come back. I can tell you that these firefighters wanted to come back to work. They just couldn't. And you should know the state of Rhode Island gave them their pension on the first try. There was no bogus claims there. The other 2 firefighters that put their papers in after the pension changes, they both died since then, since 2011. So we know they weren't faking their injuries. So we blew that angle out of the water. Let's go over some disability rates. The treasurer quoted in the article, he was talking about the overall police fire disability rate in the state of Rhode Island. And he said, let me find the right words, please. While our actuary tells us that, overall, the state system's disability rates are within expected ranges and not a cause for concern, there are unusually high number of disability applications from Cranston. So he's saying that the actuary is telling them that the disability rate in the state of Rhode Island for police and firefighters is within the norm, and there's nothing wrong with it, they can see. The state disability rate presently is 18.9. So 18.9 is the disability rate for fire and police in the state of Rhode Island that the general treasurer has said, they're actually told him, is within the expected ranges. 18.9. Now, Cranston's is 16.3, the disability rate right now. So we're below, Cranston is below what he is saying the state is fine. Now, when he went after the mayor, and I'm not here to fight the mayor's battles, he can do that on his own, but they lumped us into this with this story. The pension system that the city has direct control over, the city pension, which comes before the city council when a firefighter goes on disability, and you either give him his disability or the administration brings it to you, is 19% since the inception. So 18.9 for the state, where the general treasurer is saying it's fine. The pension system that the city really has control over since I think its inception was 50, is 19%. So we're right there. Now, what they're playing on also is where they're blaming the city of Cranston for the mayor's pension. The city of Cranston has nothing to do when the firefighter goes out on a mayor's pension. The city of Cranston has nothing to do with that firefighter going out. That's what they're trying to. That was the other spin of the story. And once we blew all that other stuff out of it, then they brought in the application that they give the city of Cranston, which the city of Cranston has to sign. So the process is a firefighter will let the chief know out of courtesy that he's retiring. Now don't forget, before this firefighter ever gets to that point of going to the chief and saying, I'm going to retire, he's been to his own doctor, he may have been to a city doctor, he's been on injured on duty status for that length of period. So he's already been to the doctors. So when he goes to the chief and says, Chief, I'm ready to retire, I can't come back, that's it. The city of Cranston is out of it. They're making it sound like the mayor, the city council, you were mentioned in the article also, was making the decision on the firefighter's pension. City of Cranston is out of it at that point. The only thing the city of Cranston has, they have to fill out an application. Once the firefighter goes to the council at MERS, they have to fill out what the firefighter was making. They have to fill out, was the firefighter injured at work? The city already knows the firefighter was injured at work. That's why the firefighter, he or she, has been on injured on duty status. The second question is the firefighter disabled? Well, the city of Cranston has already had the person go to doctors. They know that they cannot apply for a disability pension unless they have a doctor's note to retire. So the city of Cranston is making no decision on any firefighter that goes for a MERS pension. And like I said, that was the other spin they were trying to do on the city of Cranston. I also dispute they said in the article, the editorial where they called for a probe, I also dispute that there have been 23 disability pensions applied for in the last 16 years. I went through the numbers today with the chief, and we came up with 10 firefighters, so I have no idea where they got 23 pensions, 23 disability applications from Cranston. That's just not true at all. If they want to show me the names, in 6 years, 23 guys putting in for disability, then I'll come here and I'll apologize if they want to show me those names. But we went through all the records today and we couldn't find any of them. To say pro-Cranston disability pensions, that was the editorial that was based on the first article where they insinuated that politics was involved with these decisions. They can probe away. I really could get
can't say it. I don't care about the Journal. I could give two craps about the Journal. Miss Gregg, Randall Edgar, Mark Patinkin, all these people who've never been in a fire and never done our work. I could care what they think. I could care less what the treasurer of the state of Rhode Island thinks about Cranston firefighter pensions. I care about three groups who care about Cranston firefighter pensions: the administration, this city council, and the citizens of Cranston. And what I'm asking tonight, with all this factual evidence that blows their stories out of the water, what I'm asking for is this city council and this administration to stand by their firefighters and don't jump on this bandwagon that there are bad disabilities in the city of Cranston with firefighters. 9 disabilities in 22 years. I would hope there'd be 0 personally, but 9 disabilities in 22 years is not bad at all. And we just lost two young guys in the last 3 years through, I guess, fake injuries, because they were after 2011, so they must have faked their cancer. Pretty good job, because they both died. So that's what I'm asking. That's why I came here to you tonight. I don't want this thing to fester. If it festers in the state, I don't care. I don't want it to fester here, and I don't want it to fester in the city. I'll answer any questions you have about what I just said. I'll even go over the 9 disabilities with you. I won't mention their names. If you have questions about what those injuries were, I'll answer any question you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Valetta. Any questions for the Chief? Councilman McCauley.
Thank you, Council President. Chief, I just want to let you know that you have my full support. I respect every man and woman that's on your department as well as the police department. I appreciate what you folks do for the city, risking your life and limb every day. As a father of a fireman, I appreciate what you folks do every day, and I'll put that out there that my son's a fireman, not in the city of Cranston, but in West Warwick. I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of the work you folks do.
Thank you. And Mr. President, I came here tonight because, not that I want you not to buy into this, but I owe it to this council. This council's been, and we've had our disagreements, right, Councilman Henry? We've had our disagreements on certain things. The one thing you've never disagreed with us was giving us the equipment we need for safety and things of that kind. You've never, in the administration too, we're very fortunate that you support us when it comes to that, and you know how I get when it comes to injury and illness. I'll fight all day about if you disagree with things in my contract, benefits and things like that. I'll argue with you. We'll fight over it. We'll agree with it when they compromise. I will not compromise on firefighter injuries and illnesses. I will not do that. And I know you won't either.
Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, President. Thank you for being here tonight, Chief. I think we have A1 Fire Department, great job. You had 2 elderly parents, and you guys did excellent with them. I have a question for you, Mr. Valetta. Has these statistics been forwarded to the Journal or the Journal? It wouldn't matter, Councilman. It wouldn't matter in the least, because according to this, the amount of runs that you do per year and the number of injuries, if you do percentage-wise, it's nominal. It's very nominal. Night and day. But it wouldn't matter, because the truth does not matter with these people. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Lanning. Mr. Valetta, you're absolutely right. We've gone around a few times when it came to contracts, but this council has never, ever denied your department the equipment and whatever you needed to run your department safely. What bothers me is that the Journal puts out an article like this, and anything you read in the paper, theoretically, is the truth. There should have been a retraction. They should have done something, but they didn't. They let it sit there and fester. I, for one, know what you guys do. I've argued with you over contracts over the years, but I've never, ever said that any of your members have done a bad job or shirking their duty or anything like that. You've been outstanding. The city of Cranston is very lucky. We have an outstanding
fire department and police department. And anybody who's been picked up by a rescue, including me, realize how important you are to the citizens of the city. So you have my support, and I'm sure you have the support of most of the members of this council.
And the reason I gave you all this data, I'm sure maybe some of your constituents will ask you, hey, what's going on? I read it in the journal. It's in the journal. It must be true. You know, I read it in the journal. Now you have the information to give them. And you give them this information, it's night and day.
Councilman Sedekir.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Deputy Chief, for all this factual information. Your numbers are always accurate, and we appreciate it. I noticed some striking things, a couple of things that are striking. Warwick, the second largest city, is not there because they have their own closed pension. They're excluded. So the only other large city involved, North Providence, has 21 disabilities for doing half the runs that we do. So they're not to pick on anyone, but theirs are twice as high. It's interesting that the article was about Cranston and not about what's happening there. And you have Barrington, which has 6, which doesn't seem terribly high, except they only do 2,000 runs a year. So they're 15% of what we do. So it seems to me that, our ratios are pretty good, and I think the most important thing is that, like you said, the state makes the decision, not the city.
That's right.
So if they want to blame anyone, the probe should be on the state system.
That's correct.
And why they're taking two or 3 years to make decisions.
That should be the story. Why did Cranston just spend $220,000 to pay overtime on a guy who put his papers in 2 years ago and hasn't even been to a state doctor yet?
Any further comments or questions?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yeah, Councilman Stichels has not spoken yet, then I'll come back to you, Councilman Lanning.
A couple of questions. You said that one of the reasons there weren't a lot of regular pensions was because people haven't been in 25, the firefighters haven't been in the pension for 25 years. Now, is it and then you said that the 9 out of 13 who had pensions through MERS were disability pensions. The other 4, are they just elected to retire early and didn't get a maximum pension?
Correct, they took the penalty.
Okay, so 25 years, you get the maximum.
No, you have to work, it used to be 30 years you get the maximum 75% pension, now you have to work 37 years. So if you think your disability rates are high now, wait till you have 70-year-old firefighters on the back of fire trucks. In 15 years, when I won't be here, your disability rates are going to go through the roof, but that's another story.
So at 25 years, you don't get any penalty for retiring early?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the penalty is quite substantial. If you retire with 20 years, they deduct your pension by 9%. 22 years is an 8%, so it goes down 98766. So if you retire, you could cut your pension in half.
And do you have any idea why it has taken, in the case that you mentioned, the 2 years to see a state doctor?
I just don't think they have enough people working at the state. I don't think they have enough counselors.
And what role does the counselor do?
When a firefighter applies for a pension, he's given a counselor, and that at the state retirement board, and he or she is the person that gets the process. One of the problems is that you have to go to 3 state doctors. They have trouble getting doctors to take people in. But I really think it's just they've gotten rid of a lot of staff in the last 10 years. Not just there, throughout the state. And I just don't think they have enough people in the state of Rhode Island. And if I may, the General Treasurer actually said in one of the articles that he's denied some Cranston applications. One of those that he denied, we've won in court twice now. We won the appeal in the lower court, and now they're bringing us to the Supreme Court. So even though he's denying us, we're winning it in court. So they can deny us all they want, but they're good disabilities, and I think we'll be successful in court. But we still have to go to court.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Lanning.
I want to go back over the firefighter who was out for 2 years. You said covering that job for for that 2-year period was $220,000, is that what you said?
Let me get the exact number for you, Councilman.
Or was it $250,000? I'm not quite sure of that.
It's 200 something, 220 I think it was.
220?
223,073.
Right, but that's not counting his pay.
That's not counting his pay, he's getting
So
full pay. That's
he's
correct.
getting full pay on top of that, so you can almost add another
That's correct.
$175,000.
Lieutenant, so our lieutenants make about 62,000.
So another 120, so it really costs us $345,000 for that 2 years that taxpayers of this city had to pay because the state couldn't process this individual's claim.
Right. I mean, the good news is on the one we're appealing, it happens to be one of the gentlemen that passed away, the one we're appealing, we did put a law in 2 years ago that if the state retirement board denies a firefighter or police officer, and we appeal it, once the appeals process starts, that if we win in court, the state of Rhode Island has to give back, they have to pay the city of Cranston. So when we eventually win in Supreme Court with this case, and we are going to win in Supreme Court, we've been at this case for probably 2 years now. When we do win that in Supreme Court, which we might not get there for another year, the city of Cranston can go back after the state and get the pay and the benefits of this firefighter from the point they've denied him his disability that he should have gotten. But it doesn't help.
Would that include the overtime?
No, it doesn't help that firefighter that's out. This is if a firefighter is denied and we file an appeal and we win. So that's a completely different story. He hasn't even had his day yet.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, gentlemen and ladies. Oh, sorry.
Councilman Paplaskas. More of just a comment instead of a question. First of all, thank you to all the members of your department for all you do every day. I mean, 15,000 calls, 41 calls a day, some more, some less, 9 pensions. The problem clearly lies on the state. So thank you for all you do, and all members of the fire department do. Thank you.
Thank you. And for anyone else, my questions would have been around the similar line as Councilman Laney about how much we've spent in firefighter pay as well as overtime. I know a few years ago you came before this body and said the number was in excess of $1.2 million when we had 3 heads that were not going through the retirement board. I know the gentlemen are no longer with us, sadly, so they will not see the victory through to fruition. So that does sadden me that they are no longer with us. And I know how much you firefighters love their brother firefighters, and it's sad that this is what it has to come to. Having grown up in a house, and everyone knows my daddy comes to the front of a lot of meetings, but my mother remarried when I was 8, and my stepfather was a Providence police detective who contracted an on-the-job injury. It was an on-the-job injury that actually killed him, but it took 30 years to kill him. And I got to see him suffer every day till he passed away. And the article that I read in the Projo set me to the point when they insinuated that anyone would go out with a fake injury. I don't know of too many people who would fake cancer, heart disease, emphysema, swelling discs that needed to be seized. It angers me that the Providence Journal does not want to produce an article that is fair and balanced when it comes to firefighter pensions. Again, I respect the Journal. I know that they do a lot of good work, but when it comes to firefighter pensions in the city of Cranston, it seems like they don't have their facts straight.
And if I may, I know I've been up here a long time, but we're dealing with, we deal with not just the injuries, the illnesses, but we're dealing with a new one now. We all know the opiate crisis that's been going on, where it's laced with fentanyl now, and people are dying at record numbers. We do probably 4 to 5 overdoses a day in the city. And it's not just young people. It's an unbelievable epidemic. But now they've introduced, and I can't remember the name of it, they've introduced a new drug into this now that showed up in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And it takes a grain of salt to overdose you. And 3 police officers in Chelsea, Mass, the other day went to an overdose and somehow got it on their uniform, and they all showed signs of overdose, and they all had to get Narcan and go to the hospital. These are the things, we can't go in, police and fire can't go into houses fully encapsulated in suits. But these are the things that we're facing that,
We'll do the job. We know we're going to get killed. We know we're going to get injured. We know that. We took the job, and we know that. It's part of the job. But to have someone, to have people say that our injuries and illnesses are bogus it's not going to work.
So in closing, thank you for all that you do. And it's called difentanyl. It's 1,000 times stronger than fentanyl.
That's what it is.
It's a elephant tranquilizer.
That's right.
Yeah, so Director Muskin, if you would like to add anything.
If I could just briefly, usually Mr. Valletta, Chief Valletta, and I are quibbling about numbers because, as he said, we can fight all we want about contractual numbers, but some things are what they are, and when we look at numbers of runs, Councilman Arquette, in answer to your question, I very specifically told the Providence Journal, verbatim, that we had 15,300 runs. I believe it was the 2016 numbers, which are not on here. 15,300 runs to Woonsocket's 10.5 last year. I specifically gave that number. Also, the city system that Chief Valletta is referencing, I believe he talked about 19% for the whole history of that system. In the past 8 or 10 years, which many of you have presided over, along with Mayor Fung for a good portion of those 10 years, it's slightly lower than that. So I believe it's 16.3%.
Since the mayor took office, it's 16.3%.
16.3%.
So we're even below what the state level said, where the treasurer said it's okay.
And so you all just heard...
Not Cranston.
You all just heard 16.3 come out of both of our mouths. We did not even, certainly didn't discuss that this evening, the specifics of these numbers. So these are what they are. That's the time frame. Many of you on this council have also looked at those pensions and been responsible for that system for the people of Cranston as well. So I would, Councilman Arquette, just like to say yes. We very clearly did give, and I gave that number to the Journal as well.
I love when below average becomes a bad thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on public comment on anything? Seeing none, that portion of the meeting is now closed. We'll move on to election of city officials. We have a municipal court judge we're going to appoint tonight, Melissa Larson. I don't think she could be here tonight, but I know Judge Smith is a recommender of her, and he can go through her background and discuss the need of the new judge.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everybody, members of the council. I'm here to speak on behalf of the nominee, Melissa Larson. Unfortunately, she had a long-standing personal out-of-state commitment tonight. We're upset that she couldn't be here, but she had to take this commitment out of state. It was a really long-standing commitment, so she could not be here tonight. So I'm going to attempt, however, inartfully and articulately, to speak on her behalf. I've known Ms. Larson, Attorney Larson, for well over 20 years now. She is an extremely capable person, an extremely capable litigator. She's a former member of the Rhode Island Department of Attorney General for a number of years, extremely well-respected prosecutor, extremely well-respected defense attorney, actually knows the rules of evidence, knows her way around the courtroom, not afraid to try a case either as a prosecutor or as a defense attorney. Her curriculum vitae, I think, speaks for itself. She's a Cranston-born, Cranston-raised person. And I think would be an absolutely wonderful addition to the bench. We do have an unfilled position. It's already been budgeted. It's been sitting out there. And quite frankly, coming from an all-male perspective, I think it's long overdue, respectfully to the council, that a woman be appointed, but not just any woman or any man for that matter, but somebody who is particularly qualified. It's been my experience that anybody who's had trial experience, that be somebody as a civil litigator or a former member of the Department of Attorney General or a former member of the Public Defender's Office, that experience is invaluable when you presume to preside over a courtroom where you have other members of the bar coming before you and members of the public. You have an valuable wealth of experience to draw on dealing with victims, dealing with defendants. Ms. Larson presents on all counts and all fronts. She has that records and experience. We're having phenomenal year. The council president asked me, and this number is actually outdated, but since July 1st, since the start of the fiscal year, Mr. President, we're almost at $100,000 collected in less than 2 months. And I attribute that to a number of factors. Certainly, we're working hand in hand with brave members and women, men and women of our police department. They are, in fact, writing far more tickets in record numbers for the city that we are handling. I also attribute that to a drastic number of tickets that we've dismissed since the beginning of January. And that's not just for myself, that's for all members of the court. We have great respect for the men and women in blue, as well as the members of the public that appear before us. I think, Mr. President, you also asked me for another set of numbers. I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but you did ask about the overnight parking since the amendment. And I thought a fair sample would be, since that was relatively late spring, would have been, I took from May 1st up to the present, and the present would be up to last Friday. And what Council President Faria asked me for the rest of the members of the council was, could you give me some idea, give the council some idea of, since you passed that ordinance, it allowed us some discretion to handle the overnight parking, as well as the court costs and court fees. This year, since May 1st up until this past Friday, there were 306 tickets issued for overnight parking, and that's small sample size, but I felt it was fair representation since the implementation of the ordinance. 306 tickets written this year, just a few dollars short of $7,000 in revenue. Comparable period last year, relatively close same number of tickets, approximately 270 to 275 from May 1st, 2016 till the requisite date in July. I'll strike that in August. Revenue was just under $2,000. So there's been approximately roughly a $5,000 increase in revenue. I attribute that largely to this council's enactment of the change in the ordinance that gave the judges of the court greater flexibility to handle that particular issue. And I can tell you as an aside, myself and all the judges, and this is an aside to the issue that the council was addressing, we have any number of people that do come forward. I've had one in front of me, not this particular gentleman, but one with no driveway, and we dismissed that ticket because of the obviously logistical problem of having no driveway. I can't recall at this time, I'm sad, unfortunately for the council, that individual's name was some time ago. But if they are having an issue, I can tell you that the court oftentimes will just simply tell them to call the police department, speak to the officer in charge, the OIC, especially if it's a temporary issue. We got relatives staying over, we got a problem with construction in our area, we just have to park overnight. And to my knowledge, the citizens that appear before the court have taken that advice, and it usually works out. The police do follow through, and they do work with the citizens not to issue those tickets, as long as they're called in advance and told what the problem is. So in any event, I'm asking the council to approve Ms. Larson. I think she'll be an invaluable addition to the court, to the bench, a nice change of pace, and I think it's time, quite frankly, for the council to approve a female and a woman in that position, and she is most qualified, and I certainly would not recommend anybody to the council that I did not think was of the requisite character, the requisite experience, and the requisite temperament to sit on the bench, because I treat my word as the council's word, because you ultimately have to put your stamp of approval on that person. And I can assure the council that I would not recommend anybody that I felt had any issues whatsoever in my mind. She is qualified. She will do a great job. It will be a mark of positive growth for the city in that appointment, and I comment favorably on her approval by the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Just to expound on the comments of Judge Smith, I had the privilege of meeting Attorney Larson. We had a nice chat. Her qualifications are ecstatic. I think it's time that we put a woman on the bench in Cranston. I couldn't remember the last time, if ever, we had a woman judge. So having talked with Ms. Larson, I also, too, would urge for her passage.
Thank you.
With that, I'll send a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, I have a second, under discussion. Councilman Lanning.
Do we have a resume?
Yeah.
It's in the packet? Okay, fine. That was my only question. I didn't see the resume. No, they explained it to me. Okay, it's fine.
Councilman Arquette.
Just from my perspective, I would appreciate the candidate to be in front of us if we had any questions. But based upon the Chief Judge's recommendation and his impeccable reputation, I'm going to support the nomination.
Thank you, Councilman.
She will have to come next month to get sworn in, just with her travel schedule. We wanted to get we wanted to get it out of the way so we can continue the revenue stream that we have in the courts and get the position filled.
She will be here. If there are any questions, she's more than capable of speaking for herself.
Next month's council.
Next month's council meeting for the swearing in. She's very, very capable. Thank you, Council.
Any other questions? With that, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. With that, Ms. Larson will be a judge. I look forward to swearing her in next month as the first female Cranston will put on the bench. Thank you, Judge Smith.
Thank you very much, Council. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Thank you to all of you. Thank you. You won't be disappointed. I appreciate that.
Next on the list, we have the Cranston Public Library Board of Trustees reappointment of Fred Nat Lasner. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion approved. Do I have a second? Second. Under discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Under Board of Canvassers, we have the Democratic member and alternate. If you remember last month, I said I would accept the first name on the list, so I believe there's a list. Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, President Freeman. A list has been submitted by the Democratic Chair, Mr. Sepe, and the clerk has the list. The top name on the list, I believe, is Deborah Canzone. That's our nomination.
Do I have a motion to approve, Ms. Canzone? Motion approved. Do I have a second? Second. Under discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lanning?
Yes.
Councilman Arquette?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels?
Yes.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Arquette?
Yes.
Councilman Colfer?
Yes.
Councilman Voskis?
Yes.
Council President Victor?
Yes. Yes. I believe there's an alternate list as well. Councilman Minority Leader Arquette, if you could read the minority name, the alternate, where's the second name on the list?
For my Council President, I believe that was just a typo in the docket, it's just the alternate position there.
I believe it is.
Oh, okay, typo in the docket. Next, we have zoning board review. Tom Barberi, the Ward 4-6 member reappointment for the term expiring 5/23/20. We had Mr. Minucci, Madam Clerk, who was the Ward 4 Ward 6 representative that resigned from the committee? Minicucci. So this will be replacing Mr. Minicucci on the zoning board. Mr. Barberi's resume was sent out today. He is the principal at Cranston High School West and showed significant interest in joining the zoning board and getting involved in Cranston. Have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Under discussion. Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lanning?
Yes.
Councilman Arquette?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels?
Yes.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Arquette?
Yes.
Councilman Colfer?
Yes.
Councilman Voskis?
Yes.
Council President Victor?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Barberi will be here next month for his swearing in. Report of city officers and executive communications. Looks like Director Muskin is not here, but you have it. So Director Strong will be handling that for us tonight.
Are we going to Captain Craig Merritt? Are we on that?
I believe we have the report on hiring special counsel per the charter, so everyone's received a copy of that, and now we can move on to Captain Craig Merritt.
Okay, based on the administration review, the administration supports Captain Craig Merritt, Cranston Fire Department, to be placed on pension roll effective August 18th, 2017.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to place Captain Craig Merritt on the pension rolls effective August 18th. He has met all qualifications. I have a motion and a second. Clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes, there were two claims settled by the solicitor, Princess E. Mark and Batara Law Firm LLC of $6,600 for personal injury and vehicle damage. If anyone has any questions, the solicitor can expound on what he can. Seeing none, we will close this section of the meeting citing executive communications. Now we'll go on to Council President communications. The first thing I have on the docket is the overnight parking committee. The appointments to that committee, Councilman Pavlowskis will be the chair. Councilman Stikos, I have added your name to that committee. Councilman Hopkins, you are on the committee. Those will be the three council appointments. I will be ex officio, just in case for some reason there is a vote and a tie would have to be broken. And the three members from the administration, as Director Muskian mentioned, were the John Corso from the Highway Department, a member of the Police Department, and a member of the Fire Department. Those will be the appointments. The first meeting, Chairman Pavlowskis.
September 18th, after Safety Services and Finance.
Thank you very much. The second thing I had in the docket tonight, I was going to talk about two things. One, I'd like to thank again Chief Valletta for coming tonight and giving us some facts and figures about, the truth is in advertising, and sometimes when you advertise things, they're not the truth. It's good to hear some figures that make a lot more sense as to what we know the city of Cranston, the firefighters do. Secondly, I have a brother and a sister who live in Houston. They've currently both been evacuated from their homes, so thoughts and prayers are with the people of Houston right now as they go through historic flooding. Wish there was something in Cranston I could do to help them, but I have first line of communication to them, and they've told me they're enjoying their stay in the hotel outside of Houston, and they're hoping that the waters don't go over the levee, which is 60 feet, and they're expected to be at 59 feet. So it's all prayer that they don't get another foot of rain and push them over the levee. So if I could ask the councilman just to say a quick prayer for the people of Houston, I would appreciate it. Moving on to council member communications. Councilman Pavlowskis, you are on the list, sir.
Thank you, Council President. One was the Shannigat State Park. We were looking to get some trash receptacles maybe on each end and have the city pick it up. So I don't know if anybody here can answer that. No?
Yeah, with Director Muskian having to leave, I think we'll have to move this to the committee, Public Works.
Yep.
So we'll
send that back to Public Works.
Send it back to Public Works, Chairman Hopkins, and to the administration, if you could have, even if it's a draft of an email from the Director of Public Works to let us know if that's a viable plan. We did ask him at the Public Works Committee, could we do this? How do we do this? How do we get trash cans in the park? He did say it would be an issue being a state park, but we want him to think about a solution that will help the citizens who use the park.
And one more item, we also had a rash of graffiti on the bike path, specifically in the area of Park Avenue to Uxbridge Street, so maybe we can add that to the Public Works agenda as well. All right.
Chairman Hopkins, any issue with adding those two things back to Public Works?
I think we were discussing the bike path anyway at Public Works, so we'll add.
We were, so we'll add that as a document, so the administration will be prepared.
Thank you.
Any additional council member communications tonight? Councilman Lanning.
Thank you, President Farina. I'd like to have a moment of silence in memory of Frank Montanaro Sr., lifelong Cranston resident, tremendous labor union leader, and I think he deserved that, at least that from this council. Thank you.
Councilman Lanning, as a point of information, I have asked Director Muskian, who's no longer here, to coordinate with the mayor and the administration on recognizing him either at next month's council meeting or a special recognition for Mr. Montanaro Sr.
Well, great minds think alike. Thank you.
Councilman Marquetto.
I know it's not on the docket. I just want to express my gratitude and thanks to the mayor and the administration for fixing the fence at Gladstone Street and paving the street and fixing the sidewalk It's in the process of being done before the first day of school opens, so it's great for the neighborhood and for the kids. So thank the mayor and the administration. Thank you.
Any additional, Councilman McCauley?
Thank you, Council President. I was a bit concerned as a newbie when Jeff Barone left, because he was certainly a big help to me, but I want to give props to Leanne Zarella and also to Carlos. They've been tremendous. They really have, and it certainly makes me look better in the eyes of my constituents because they're really working hard for us, and I want them to know that I certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. Director, can you let them know that they were given some good kudos tonight? I know, especially, we try to get along together and do things as a body as opposed to political parties, so I like that. Any additional comments? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting. There is no old business, so we have introduction of new business.
We have proposed ordinance 8-1701, authorizing the city to utilize Eastern Recreational Impact Fees for the Jeffrey S. Girard II Memorial Therapeutic Playground, sponsored by Mayor Fung, Council President Farina, Council Vice President Favicchio, and Councilman Hopkins, to be referred to Finance Committee for a hearing on September 18th. Proposed ordinance 8-1702, an amendment of Title 3.04 of the Code of the City of Cranston entitled Revenue and Finance regarding City Council grant writer, sponsored by Councilman Farina, to be referred to Finance Committee for a hearing on September 18th. Resolution urging the General Assembly to pass legislation banning guns in school, sponsored by Councilman Laney, to be referred to Ordinance Committee for a hearing on
September the 14th.
September 14th. I'm sorry, we've had some meeting day changes in September, and I just had a senior moment. Tax incentive application for Reservoir Avenue Rentals, LLC. Dean DiNuccio, referred to the Finance Committee for a hearing on September 18th. Request from National Grid for a pole location at Brighton Avenue, referred to Public Works for a hearing on September 14th. Request from National Grid for a pole location at Sacanasa Crossroads to Public Works Committee also on September 14th. The following claims to be referred to Claims Committee for hearing on September 18th. These are all property damage claims. Thomas Rotello from alleged incident on June 24th, 2017. James Lebaden from alleged incident on July 5, 2017. Melissa Commissara from alleged incident on July 17, 2017. Joseph Lafort from alleged incident on July 21, 2017. And Nicole Halford from alleged incident on August 9, 2017. And that's all the new business I have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will entertain a motion to send all the business to the proper committee for hearings.
So moved.
A motion to second. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. There's a few pieces of miscellaneous business on the clerk's desk. They are listed on the docket if you want to review them. The City Council's next regular meeting will be held on Monday, September 25th, 2017. If there's no further business come before this council, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. All those in favor?